Menorahs madlik. Tofresh Shayin Aleph Beis. Menorahs madlik. Balayla Risha madlik echad mikam be'elech moisef v'hoilech. Echad b'chol layla. You add on one more every day. Ad shebulal achron you shmoina. V'afilim rab mnei abayis lo liyadlik yoser. And the purpose of that is because we don't want to have confusion. So if everybody's you're not gonna know how many lighting, so that's what we do. V'yei shomrim, d'chol echad mimei abayis yadlik. Now, I'd just like to make a statement over here. I don't think it's relevant to anybody here, but I'm making a statement. Perhaps I should take it because it's not going to get to anybody here. Many times I'm asked questions and the person tells me, I'm a Sefardi. And I say, okay, I won't hold it against you. Why are you telling me that you're a Sefardi? So they said, because I want to know what the halacha is for Sefardi halacha. You ever say that? What are you laughing about? So
they're asking you as
nobody want to know. No, I'm saying halacha. They're really right. I'm saying halacha bistam.
Right.
So am I taking into account that they're Sefardim? So that's 100% okay. But there becomes many times questions that a Sefardi posek said one thing, an Ashkenazi posek said something else, but it's nothing to do with what's called Sefardi halacha. Sefardi halacha is anything which it says in the Mechaber. This is the simple, without getting involved. It says in the Mechaber, that's Sefardi halacha. What it says in the Ramah is Ashkenazi halacha. Now, aside from that, there are times when the Beis Yosef usually goes after the Rambam, and the Rosh and the Ramah goes after the Rosh. Here, it's the exact opposite way around, and the Taz makes a comment about that. That here we have a change of allegiance, although it's usually there. And the answer to the question is that there's no Sefardi halacha or Ashkenazi halacha. It's, as they say where I come from, you call them as you see them, right? So now it happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, either Reb Chaim Brisker said this or the Beis Halevi. He said, how come you always pasuk like the Rambam? He says, I don't. I just always learn the Gemara like the Rambam. That's the way it works by me. I happen to have an affinity. My line of thinking is congruent with his. It's not because he's my favorite. That's the way it works. All right? So many times, the reason why I'm saying this is because many times, there'll be a question. I'll use this as an example. You're allowed to open bottles or not to open bottles on Shabbos. This is not a Sefardi Ashkenazi Shiloh. That's just like, are you allowed to pull the plug or not? It's not an Ashkenazi or Sefardi Shiloh. It's a halacha Shiloh. Now, there could be Ashkenazi place going to say one way, Sefardi place say the other way. Usually there's some Sefardi place that say the Ashkenazi, some Ashkenazi say the Sefardim. But it's not based on a certain Menorah in halacha. What does happen is, and this is why I'm going to use this as an example, for Americans, Rav Moshe Feinstein is the bottom line. Now, whether that's exactly true or not, that's a different story. But conceptually, what Rav Moshe Feinstein says, that's the law. In Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Feinstein is a fine Rav. That's very nice. But what does that have to do with halacha l'maisa? Right? Is this true or not true? Right. So no. And in Bnei Brak, what the Chazon Ish said, that's halacha l'maisa. And in New York, he's Adam Galamah. What does that do with halacha? Right. So there are people which have a certain Rav, and they follow that Rav all the time, and that's fine. That's what you should do. But if you're not part of that stream of Yiddishkeit, not necessarily is everything Ashkenazi or Sefardi. You have to know what you're supposed to be doing. It's just a place to mention this Nakuda, and it's really a very confusing issue for many people. Tov.
Am I allowed to ask you a question?
You already did. Yeah? Another one.
The Beis Yosef said that he was going to paskin like the Rosh, the Rambam, and
That's the rule. That's not always. It doesn't always go like
and the
that.
Rama didn't necessarily agree that that's how we should paskin. So it is Ashkenazi.
That's
once-
a different akuda. There's a methodology used to come to a conclusion. But once the conclusion came to, what's said by the Beis Yosef is the bottom line for Sefardim, and what's said by the Ramah is the bottom line for Ashkenazi. Now, it's how they came to their conclusions, whether they had the same philosophy or not, is irrelevant. The reason why we follow the Ramah is because he's Rabban Shel B'nai Ashkenaz. The reason why I follow the Beis Yosef because he's. There's nothing to do with how they got to their conclusion.
But there is Sefardi and Ashkenazi halacha. I thought they were saying the opposite.
In as much as it's based on
Beis Yosef
Beis
versus
Yosef.
Rambam.
Now, not only that, this is not really negeh, because there's no Sefardim here, but many Sefardim don't do like the Beis Yosef, they do like the Chidah. And sometimes they do like the Pen Ishchai, and they don't do like the Beis Yosef. Whereas even in Sefardi halacha, it's not as regimented as you would like. And this was from the wars of Rabbi Yosef, was to go and be Machzor Ator Yoshna and put back the Beis Yosef and get rid of the Birkei Yosef, which is whatever, actual. All right. Anyways, now here we have some fascinating Mishnah Berurahs. Many of them are painful, so we'll try to learn them before a Zman of Chag, which is a Simcha. Okay. Mikan ve'elech, v'mei nadi ma'asek, fine. Echad b'chol layla, im yesh lo teisha neiros. Yadik belel sheni, shtei neiros. You have 9. So when do you light that extra candle?
You mean the first day or the last day?
No, the first day for sure don't light an extra candle because you only need 1, right?
Right.
So now, does it make any difference when I should light the extra candle?
Should you?
Why?
Should do it the second day.
Because that's like the 100.
Okay. Is there any reason to light it? Would you gain anything if you lit it on the 3rd night?
But that's not 100 because you're not doing.
Okay, excellent. Now we'll see.
Can you do it on the 3rd night?
Even better question. Okay, we'll see. Im yesh lo tisha neiros, yadek belel sheni shtei neiros. V'im yesh lo 10 neiros, af al pi kein lo yadlik rak belel sheni shtayim, u'belel shlishi lo yadlik shtayim. Why?
He doesn't have enough for
Show
3.
the moon net.
Of course, it's not like any sheep.
He doesn't have enough for 3.
Yeah.
And,
It's the
and
wrong-
2.
What happened to the good old the more the merrier?
And 2 on the second, third night doesn't do anything.
Why does it do nothing?
The wrong
It's not
amount.
the right sheet then, it's not here, it's not there. It's not the baseline, it's not the 100.
Okay. So this is actually, that's correct. There's actually a little bit of a machlokes this point, because the question how much of riboy doing more than the amount, how important is that? And we're going to see a little bit more about that. Let's go weiter. Where else?
Vav.
Vav. Achavel achroin. Umish oilaynu shemen harbe. Yiten be'echad shemen kashir. V'amoyse yechalek kulam. You should split them up. Shem yasa kulam b'shova lo yadek afilu echad kashir. You're not going to have enough to do kashir. V'im yesh lo shemen b'tzimtza. Now, there's something missing in this Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah didn't explain himself. Someone comes to Rabbi Zachariash and he says, Rabbi Zachariash, I only have enough oil to light for 15 minutes. What do I do?
Thinner wick.
Thinner-
What?
Pick a thinner wick.
Yes. Rabbi Zachariash, I only have enough for it to go 15 minutes with a transparent wick. No. Thin out the oxygen. Next, yeah?
Sell your shirt.
Good.
I tried, I had no buyers. Next.
There's nowhere to get more oil.
Nowhere to get more oil. Yeah, okay. So what do I do?
I would-
So it's, what should I light? If somebody said the night of Pesach and somebody has a half a kezayis matzah, what should he do?
Read it.
Why?
No. He's got to eat it.
Doing
Pesach.
something.
He what?
At least he's doing something.
He is?
At least it's a zecher for it.
It's good for the dentures. What's he doing?
It's a zecher for the mitzvah.
I don't know.
Participating in it.
I hate to say it. I don't want to pick on you, but that sounds like conservative Judaism.
Why?
You're doing nothing.
Why is he doing nothing? He is eating some matzah.
You know what?
Maybe it's a
Parrots, I'd like to ask you a question. When he gets to Shemayim and they tally his mitzvahs and averis, and he's 50-50. So he looks over the list and he says, does the Chatzi Shir get me over?
Yes.
What do we tell him?
I did my best. I did what I had.
We already figured that in. We did that already.
If it's all taken into account, there's nothing to do.
But in other words, is it called? I don't see it there as a
Is the
mitzvah.
question to say the bracha of halachas matzah or to eat
No.
that tiny bit of matzah
Even
with
to
just
eat.
the hamotzi beforehand?
Just to eat it without.
Is it the same thing
There
as a
were
Chatzi
many-
Shir? You're not chayiv on, but you did something. So over here, I didn't get the
Who
shir.
says you did something?
On an avera, right? If you ate chazer, but it wasn't the shir, you don't give you an
Who says you did something?
It's not considered an. It's a deraisa still, no? Even if
Perhaps. The reason why it's an Issa Deraisa is only because it's Chazil Starufi. Doesn't mean that you did something. You understand?
There are more than one story about during the concentration camps where they had one matzah for 100 people and they all took a little piece of it.
And therefore,
Therefore, there must be something to it.
what is it that's to it?
Chavivus, that's what it is. It's only the-
Perhaps.
I would say for Chanukah it's even more because the original Chanukah, the oil lasted longer than it was supposed to.
So we should hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go.
Okay, go for it.
it wasn't a
Okay.
transparent wick anyways.
Okay. Anyways, I'm going to tell you what the Mefarshim say.
Oh. It just
That-
lasted for longer
they're
amount of
different- they're
time.
different
Yeah.
periods.
That's a machlokes. That's a machlokes. That what the answer is. I'm going to tell you the answer to this question. The answer to this question is that there's a shaila in the Gemara, and the Gemara shaila is when it says you should light until shetachala regel min hashuk. Is that telling us the zman, or is that telling us the amount? According to some, if you're lighting late, you only have to put in half the amount. Because that's the window of lighting. You don't have to light for 15 minutes, you blow 15 minutes late. And you yotze lechatchila.
Was it bracha?
According to that side, yes, with a bracha. That's not halacha l'maisa, but yes, with a bracha. So there's a Gemara. Shaila is if it's the zman of the shiur, and the Gemara blives by a question. The Gemara doesn't have an answer. So therefore, we're choishish l'chumra that it's just the zman and not the time, and not the amount. So therefore, even though you have a chatzi shir, it's not a chatzi shir, because could be according to one side of the Gemara, it's a full shir.
So should I 15
So
minutes
should
late?
yeah.
You should like what?
15 minutes late.
Because then he's letting all
Then
of
it's share my life at that time.
He
That's
knew-
according to the other side of the Gemara. That's not. That's right. There's a question in the Gemara: is the shiurei or for the zman? We don't know the answer. So one candle you light that you're for sure yaitza for a half hour, the full shir, and the rest you break it up into however many days there are, and you're yaitza according to one side of the Gemara of doing it l'chumrah. You're not doing nothing. According to one side of the Gemara, you're doing it 100%.
according to this man side of the Gemara.
According to the man side, you're doing it 100%.
Lit it at the right time.
That's all. That's all the Gemara means. A chatzi regel, right? Just
That means after that he finished, you can't do it. There's no reparation after Tzich Regel and Shuk.
Right.
that's a good question. Nothing to do with this question. That's true. Without this question too, possibly. Anyway,
How's that
Also,
work
he
for matzah?
now, those stories about those people who did it during the concentration camp. So a friend of mine was in Rav Gustman's shir, and Rav Gusman said about himself that he was with the partisans in the forest, and he split up the matzah and gave to everybody, but not because he ate anything at all. He held it was pekuach nefesh, because if you're going to have one person eat and all the other people are not going to eat, they're going to feel rejected, less, and they're not going to have the ambition to persevere and survive. So he held that pekuach nefesh overrides the mitzvah.
It's pretty simple calculation.
What?
It's a pretty simple calculation, just how we got there.
That's, you have to be a gadol b'Yisrael, that's all.
Simple because he's a genius. I would never-
No, he had a heart.
Also.
That's it's, you have to see. That's called the Adam Gadol. Adam Gadol is the person who sees the big picture, doesn't just see the questions being asked. And Adam Gadol is the person who asked Reb Chaim if you could be Yitzah
With milk.
with milk, right?
Yeah.
That's Adam Gadol. Anyways, Lo Mishaneh. I mean, it is Mishaneh, but not for what we're talking about right now. Anyways, next. Here. ואם יש לו שמן מצומצם על כל שור היומים וחבר אין כלום, מותר שידליק בכל לילה אחד וייתן גם לחברו. Why is that? Yehuda, you should know the answer to this question. This is your
You're
kind of
both doing
question.
it lechatchila.
Yeah, you both the answer.
Both.
Oh.
What is my reason that I would like to do something mahadran? I don't have extra. After I have done my mitzvah the way I would like to do it, and I have extra money, so I'll give to my friend. But I don't have.
Because the middle level of the mitzvah is one candle per person. First level is issue base, so it was one candle for everybody. Next one is one candle per person.
No, there's about somebody else who's not in his house over here.
Oh, not in his
His
house.
house.
Yeah.
Why can't I do the mitzvah the way I want?
Kol Yisrael Arabian Zelazir.
And therefore,
I'm responsible in a sense for him to see that he does the mitzvah properly.
yes, you're 100% right, but you have to explain what you're saying. You have to say it in long version so
The
people...
long version, so he doesn't have anything, so if I make sure that he has a candle for each night.
My obligation is to make sure that he lights. It's not my obligation and his obligation and his comes before my hitter. I have an obligation to make sure that he lights.
Where do you get that from?
The Torah. That's called Arvis.
So the shtat of a pretty would yes work? Or
He lives in a different house. You're a communist. Why are you putting everybody together? Why? Guess what I say wrong?
I'm just trying to understand it.
What don't you understand?
Which part? About the communist? or
No, that
the-
part you understood. Okay, yeah, that's good. What's
So why is it your obligation to make sure that, okay, there's Arebus, okay, I can understand
what does that mean?
That you have to feel,
No,
no,
you're responsible.
It's mine.
That's the difference. You know what an orev is? I borrowed money from him, and you signed as a orev. Then I don't have money to pay. Do you feel that you should pay up, or do you have to pay up?
I have to pay up.
Everybody heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what Arvis means. The Gemara tells us that you will be punished for the Averis that other Jews did, because you took the responsibility for them. So when they do an Avera, you will be punished.
What's the difference, Rob, between the Avavas for Chanukah and the Avavas for every other mitzvah? Surely a person's also Avev, someone else should put on tefillin. So everyone should do what Chabad does, and get people to put on tefillin?
I want to ask you a better question. There is going to be a funeral in Tallahassee tomorrow. Would you please get on a plane and go? The Mishnah Berurah did not, your question is a good question. The Mishnah Berurah did not say that I'm obligated to seek out to find if there's somebody who needs something to be done. Are you aware that there's a mitzvah of tzedakah? Have you made sure that every single ani has, or you only give to the people who come to you for money?
Impossible for a person to know.
Is that the answer?
Yeah.
Is that the answer? Or is it not lefonecha? So part of the question of our Avis is are you practically, are you responsible? Okay? So this is a very complicated and complex issue, but the bottom line is not everything am I dead on responsible for.
But if a rabbi would see someone, say a non-religious person, just standing outside a shul in the morning, then he is like in the Rav's domain, isn't he? So the Rav should speak to him and tell him, by the way, would you like to put on tefillin?
See, this is a very complex question. I don't want to go into the kiruv mode right now because it takes about 3 weeks to discuss this issue. But if I knew that if I would talk to him, he would go and he would do it, I probably would obligate him to do it, yes. Is that the situation? I'm asking you.
Hard to know, isn't it?
No. We're talking about Arvis. We're talking about where somebody says, I need to light candles, right?
Well, he comes up and says.
We're talking about over here a situation, right?
I thought it just means if he knows another person in his neighbourhood is so poor, as they were in those days, that he has no oil.
Well, this is all your romantic reading. It doesn't say anything about that over here. Okay? Now,
That's the case by Kiddush also? The guy shows up and that's why you make a bracha for him? He's Bala Fanecha? Why you make a bracha for Kiddush even though you already ate a Kiddush because of Arvis?
yeah.
It's Bala Fanecha.
No, that's one is a question if you have a kiyum, another one is a question I'm mechuyev to do it. The question is why am I not mechuyev to seek out a kiyum of my arvis? Everybody understands that if you do it, they have arvis. The other question is why do I have a inyan to be proactive? And I will just tell you your question. I at one time in my life I had a kvius with Rav Noach Weinberg every matzah Shabbos, and for about a year or something like that. And now, my connection to him was not through Eshet Torah. He was a classmate of my father's. He was a personal friend of his, and but I rode the wave, if you want to call it. And I don't know if you know he was into kiruv. I don't know if you're aware of that. And he says to me once, "And what do you do for kiruv?" So I wasn't so big a mechutzev as I should have been, and say more than you. I didn't say that. I said I did what Reb Chaim Volozhiner says to do. He said if I learn my Gemara here, that will help the Jew in Paris. That's guaranteed, right? Canvassing the streets is not guaranteed. Now, I didn't say I'm an anti-kiruv guy, but you want to now the truth. And I'll tell you, I knew him well, and he was really a lovely person. What bothered him wasn't that there are people that decided to do kiruv by sitting and learning. What bothered him is that people didn't care that there were people that were Mechal Shabbos. That's what bothered him. What bothered him is, how could you be adish? How could you be, how do you say that in English?
Apathetic.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that are not religious, and you can do something about it. How could you just sit there? So this is what really bothered him. If somebody came to the conclusion that that's the way I'm going to do it, that's a totally different thing. I'll just share with you, like I call it a Chanukah story, because it's a fascinating story. A friend of mine, his father was yeshiva, and at his shloshim, one of the Gedolei Hador came to be maspid. And I didn't understand. I was one that brought this Gedolei Hador to the thing, and I didn't understand what's he doing here. So I asked my friend, where does he come to the situation? So he said, I'll tell you later. So later I asked him, and he said, my father was learning Rabbi Schneider's yeshiva in London. Whoever know who this is, this famous yeshiva. And after the war, he sent out all the bochum to go to the monasteries and try to find the Jewish children. And my father stayed in Beis Medrash. And Rabbi Schneider came into Beis Medrash the next day and said, what are you doing here? So he says, I have to learn. Like, obvious question, obvious answer. I have to learn. So he said, there's a war going on, and you have to save the Jewish souls. So this guy who later became Rosh Yeshiva was no pushover. In America, there's a thing called ROTC. I don't know what it's called in other countries, but you go into the army, they pay for your college, you go into the army as an officer. You know, you skip the infantry thing. I'm sure that exists in England also. That's a standard thing. So he said to Rabbi Schneider, he said, yes, there's a war, but we also need generals. I want to be a general. Now you know I became Rosh Yeshiva, right? And he was a general. He really was a general. He was an exquisite person. And Rabbi Schneider looked at him and said, get going. Okay? Now, he get out there and
Fight.
and go and get some Jewish children. He extracted this Gadol Hador from a monastery. So this Gadol Hador had an unbelievable Hakaras HaTov to this Rosh Yeshiva. So you understand why I'm not going to tell you who the Gadol Hador is, because it's not complimentary. I mean, it's not his fault, but it tarnishes him in people's eyes. Perhaps it should, on the contrary, make him greater in people's eyes. But lo mishana, you're not going to divulge who the person was. But Eichshahu, this is a question of when do you have to close your books and when don't you. And we'll just leave it at that. I'll continue. Anyways, ודווקא כשווה היינו מבני ביסו, אשר נסמוך על שולחנו, אבל מבני ביסו מותי שולחן. מיהו שמונה, ואם השמן הוא ביוקר, מוטוב להדלק בנרס שייבה, וליוס מויסף ההילך, כמו שכוסו בפנים. It's better to have more candles than to have a higher grade of oil. ממה שידלק בשמן זית בכל לילה בלבד. Okay, ולא ידלק יסר, בין בלילה ראשון בין משור הלילה, הכל נגרור מאצל בעל הבייס. אפילו באנו גדולים ומשור סו, כיוון שהם סומכים על שולחנו בקביעס, הם בכלל בני ביסוי. Anybody who's called bnei beisai, they are included in his lighting and they don't light by themselves. Just like Neir Shabbos. We don't find people saying, oh, let me light too. Okay. His wife is included in his adlaka. The Yosef ahoylech ner echad b'chol laila. V'menir masegas kol kach yadliku ner echad b'chol laila. They should light one candle each night. Now I'd like to read the Ramah, the next part of the Ramah, which is very important, halacha l'maisa. This piece of the Ramah is not observed by many, and it's painful to me. Part of the reason why the first shita says to one person light is because it's not going to be nicker. The Ma'aseh of how many people, you know what's going on exactly, so you have one person do it, then you have a clear indication what's going on. So the Ramah, he says that he disagrees and he holds it's more important there should be more neiros. I'm not getting involved in that. But he adds something which has a halachic implication, a daiti, which people are not aware of. V'chein haminig pashut, that everybody lights more. Now here's the line that bothers me. V'yizaru liten kol echad ve'echad neiroisav b'makom miyuchid. This is what's called like a pshara. But make sure that you put your candles, each person, in a different place. Kedei sheyeh heker kama neres madlikin. If I find 5 menorahs strewn throughout the house, so it's clear that there are 5 different people that are lighting. But if they're all lit in one clump, you don't have that. Asher al-kei. Somebody asks me, this is like a rabbi question quiz. Catch the rabbi, okay? Is it important to have a menorah? No.
So according to this,
They're
yeah.
going to have.
According to this Ramon, yes.
It depends.
It also depends for who? For the people on the outside or people on the inside?
It depends. If you have it, if you're just going to have, let's say, use tea lights, just line up tea lights. So how do you know how many people it is? But if you have a menorah, so it's clearly this is one thing and that's another thing. So
this thing they've been selling the last few years that attaches to the bottom of those oil, pre-filled oil things, and you can just put them down like that.
yeah,
So it's saying that's not a good thing then.
No,
it depends how many people are lighting in the house.
5. I don't know.
In other words, if we're lighting over here, no, right here where this menorah is, okay, and you have that menorah over there, and another menorah next to it. Okay, I bet we could all pass. So how many people are lighting? Right, you'll be able to figure it out, right? But so because the menorah makes it pronounced, that's called what the Ramah is saying, that you have them lighting in a different place. It doesn't have to be a dafka, a different place. That's why I understand the Ramah. It has to be distinguishable that these are different hadlakas that are happening. It's not the same thing. So if someone asks me how important is it the menorah,
What's going on?
it depends what's going on. Now there is, aside from that, the idea of the menorah, I'll just tell you there's a pri chodosh someplace that says that it also makes a difference. If you have a menorah, you don't need a shamish, because everybody knows what that is, right? We all play football, right? Anyways, let's go right there.
Where I used to live, there was someone that had a large number of children, and he used to light. He lived on the ground floor, and he made like layers of menorahs in the window.
Right, well, I should do the same thing.
That's okay.
So yeah, I think that makes it, it's clear. Nobody's going to say that that's one person, right?
Right, you can see different menorahs, but just layer one on top of
Correct. Okay.
Yeshiva is hard to tell.
The answer to that question is it depends what you mean by hard to tell. You look and you see that there are different menorahs. You know how many people light. It's clear what's going on. You don't mix them up. Doesn't look like one person's lighting.
They're awfully close.
That's true, but by the fact that they're in menorahs,
Each one is its own pas. That's
yeah, I think that's enough.
They weren't always in the Menorahs either. The Coke bottle,
That's-
the Pepsi bottle.
That's all Sprites belong to you. All Cokes belong to me. That's fine. We would never mix them up, right? Chas v'shalom. Anyways, all right.
Corona.
Anyways, let's continue. Fine. All right. All right. Let's go to the next halacha.
So which part did the Rav say that people don't follow? That they're distinct? That people oftentimes it's not distinct?
Yeah. So people I've seen people just put down tea lights.
Okay.
Two rows of tea lights, one next to the other. It's very hard. What? A shot glass? Yeah. So there it's a shtickle problem. It's hard for me to say that just by the fact that they're in a row, that's enough. That's called suggestive.
If they're different designs on the shot glasses?
I don't know. Let's go by. I don't think so. I don't think that's enough. The guy could be, he got the clearance. All right. Ner sheyesh lo shtei piyos. Oile loy b'shil shtayim. Okay? You could have, in other words, it's not a question where it's drawing from, it's a question of how many lights you see. All right? Now, let's go weiter, because it's important to learn together. Mila kar Shem v'kifa psilas, and you have a bunch of wicks in it. In kifa aleh kli, kol psila oila b'shil ner echad. Lo kifa aleh kli, afilu ner echad in oila, v'fi shahu kimedura. Now, this is something which needs a bit of explanation. If I put a cover on top of it, so you see each light individually, and if I don't put a cover on top of it, then what do you see? I'll tell you what I see. Each light individually. What do you see different? Second, this wasn't a Lomdische question, right? This was a very simple question, reading question.
But if you put a kli, it makes each one its own
Compartment.
compartment.
Right. So in other words, Nira Kamadura does not mean an intense conflagration. That's not what we're talking about. But it looks like it's a fire with many pieces. When it has a cover on it, we see individual fires. It separates them conceptually. I don't think that the point is that it separates them physically.
They're
already-
going to come together. They're going to oil it together.
Why are they going to be all together? If the wicks are close together, we oil it together, even though they're in different compartment.
With or without it, they're going to oil it together.
I don't think they're going to be all together. In both cases, they're not being oiled together.
In both cases, they're not. But the Rebbe is saying that the fire looks the same in both.
L'chayra.
It's just the kli makes you see.
It defines it.
Yeah.
That's how I understand. Okay, now let's see the Mishnah Berurah, and then we'll go back. In Kofa, Shayidei Zeh Ein Nischabim Kol Apsilas Yachad V'Davka Shkiva Achar Kach Hitlik. Avon Hidu Achar Kipa Tzarch Lechabos V'Lachasas B'Kli V'Lachzor Lahadlik. Right, because they could come together, and it looks like that's what it looks like it is. Though the fact that it's not or is a Madura thing, it's not that it's just we have to see them as independent lights. The Fishu Kamadura, Shemischabros Kol Halals Yachad. They can all come together. Okay, so obviously, in other words. If you do it in a way that they can't, so then they look individual. How do I know that? What's my raya? Anybody who doesn't get my raya, you don't get doubles of ice cream. The raya is from Sif Gimel. What did we say in Sif Gimel? Ner sheyesh lo shtei piyos, elo b'shil shtayim. Because they stay, it has a way that it stays separate. Okay? So I think that's the... okay. Now I want to go back, and I was someplace today, and they asked me to look at their Menorah and asked me if I have any comments. And I said, indeed I do. And I say this comment over often, and that the Menorah in the shul is included in this issue. I would not suggest anybody buying a menorah like the one we have in shul.
What?
I would not suggest anyone buying a menorah like the one we have in shul.
Should be
Yeah.
real silver.
The Shabbos
What?
They should be real silver.
Gold!
No, the Shabbos should be in the same line.
What's
The Shabbos should be on the side and not in the middle. Here we have 2 sets of 4.
Oh, not 8.
Is that true or not true?
That's the point.
Depends on the candelabra. This particular one, it's.
I said you should not buy one like this one, right?
But some of them look almost like this, but the 2 middle ones are closer together.
Really?
What do you mean? I don't know.
He said this is like 4 and 4.
No, that's the space for the Shabbos.
But
The
there are
Shabbos
some-
occupies the same space.
The shamish is filling the space in between the
I
two.
understand with this one, but there are some, I have one at
Some of them
home,
closer
where
He's
together.
saying that the
basically
sun that the
all 8 go
That's 4
across
and
the
5 are close to
same
each other.
spacing, and the shamus is still sticking out.
It's off to
That's
the
fine.
Right.
That's fine. But this one is two. Now, where's my raya? My raya is from, let's see the Mishnah Berurah.
Which Mishnah Berurah?
We're going to do. Let's hurry up and do Sif Gimel. The Mishnah Berurah. The Hanish Apsius b'Yiflim Menachem ben Ner Zeh Eitzel Zeh v'Rak Roshi Apsius Bolti B'Chutz V'Hol Shtei Mekaymos. Okay. V'Kamash Mulan Da'af Api Sheb'Yiflim Enu Muvdolim Apsilas Klal Zeh Mizeh Mikol Mokom Kivu Shemogan Echosim B'Peh Minka Shem Shnayim Nechshavas L'Shtayim. As long as it's clear, that's good enough. Olim B'Shel Shtayim Mashu Miloshen Zeh Da'afilu Mahadrin Ha'oiseneh L'Chol Echol Gam Ken Yoel Zeh L'Shnei B'nei Adam. Two people could light in one kli. Vayba Magen Avron Shadaita Lefima the Isa the Bagol Lidan the Masif Kol Laila Ner Echol L'Chol Echol Tzorach Kol Echol L'Halik Nerois B'Macham Yuchol Lo Yadliku Shnei Anoshim B'Ner Echol Afilu B'Laila Rishon V'yesh Lihizor B'Zeh. Now it says V'Esher Davka Ner Sheyesh L'Rak Shtei Piyos, because then you're not sure if it's one or two. Avo Menorahs Shalanu Sheyesh Lahem Shmoina Piyos Muter Lahadlik Shnei B'nei Adam Zeh B'Kotze Zeh V'Zeh B'Kotze Zeh. Why? Here's the important line. Sharei Royin Shadliku Shtayim Dim Lo Ken Haya Madlik Seder Echad Eitzel Chaveroi V'Chei Noagim Lo'elo. So now, if we were to light 1 and 1, that would be okay. 2 and 2, it would be okay. We would understand that it's 2 different people lighting. 3 and 3,
Borderline.
no. 3 and 3 would be okay.
It'll be okay because you have one in the middle.
No, I have 3 in the middle.
Yeah, 4 and 4.
Oh,
Your math is off,
4 and 4, you don't know if it's 1 or 2.
right?
Right.
Now, if anything, I would know, and I would say it's 2.
I think it's 2.
Right? If anything, right, you were just the Rachman because you wanted to be Yaitse, that's all. Right? So why did I say one shouldn't do it lechatchila? Possibly the menorah saves the day.
This one's separate.
The menorah saves the day that we can understand that this is called one thing. We can understand it as we can possibly. All right.
What would be confused between?